let's redo that because there are a lot of bugs actually. Gotcha, you little rascal. Do make a good impression. When I was in 7th grade, I came home with my schedule in my pocket and adjectives scribbled next to my teachers' names. Boring, strict, funny. I was 12, but I was observant and I had made assumptions about my teachers on the first day of school. Your students will be observant too, so it's important to make a good impression on the first day of school because it's easier to teach students who trust you. That means dress appropriately, be professional, treat this like a job interview, and have fun. You love your job, and that should be obvious to students. Do go over classroom procedures. In the secondary classroom, I mostly focus on how I would like assignments to be turned in and seating arrangements. It's important for you to decide what's unique about your classroom and show students how to handle equipment, books, or flexible seating that you have. For example, I have throw pillows and mats that my students use during independent reading or studying, but not while I'm lecturing, so it's important for me to tell them about this on day 1. We can't expect students to follow these rules that they don't know about. I made the mistake of assuming some things were just common sense or should be common sense for them, but they weren't. And that just resulted in a lot of resentment towards my students for not following my non-existing rules. Do welcome classroom culture. Offer students opportunities to mingle with each other. Have a group scavenger hunt in your classroom where students go around looking for a certain book, the absent work bin, or the hall pass. This is a great opportunity for students to take ownership of their learning environment and to make acquaintances on the first day. I'm not a big fan of icebreakers, but I do welcome activities that allow for genuine and intimate conversations. One of my favorite activities is to play Get to Know You Bingo on the first day because this always sparks conversations with strangers in a fun and non-threatening way. I'm thinking of you, introverts. Do get students excited about the subject. So much about the first day of school is procedures and the syllabus and rules. Big snooze. The students should know how much you love the subject you teach. One of the things I do in my language arts classroom is have students create a dictionary entry for who they are. If I were to look them up in the dictionary, what would define them? What are some synonyms or antonyms that they would use to describe themselves? I've also introduced my students to 2-voice poems where they have this conversation with their 10th grade self now as an 11th grader, and they talk about how they used to view the world compared to how they see it now. Another fun thing for students to do is to write a letter to their end of the school year self, and this can include advice, song lyrics, motivational quotes, anything about what describes them on day 1 when they enter your classroom. It's always fun for them to read this letter and get it back on the last day of school and see how much they've changed. Do plan ahead. When the bell rings, where will you stand? Do you need to make copies that day? Are you going to be passing out papers? How will students know where to sit? Will you project it? Will you have name tags on their desks? Just because you won't be teaching a full lesson plan doesn't mean you don't need to plan for it. Have an objective, even if it's just students will be able to recall procedures. Make sure you know how to transition from events to events and know what you want students to do, think, or say by the end of the class. For full lesson plans and other resources, be sure to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and on my teacher blog. Check it out in the description below.